Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to M4L Academy. This month, we're exploring the dangers of social media and gaming and the devastating impact that these platforms have on today's youth. Our guest today is one of our speakers in the Rhetoric for the Republic, which we'll be recording in just a little bit, so I'm very excited to speak to her. She will be taking the side of not restricting social media for minors, which is a bit of a surprise, but we'll get into that in a minute. Julie Smith is a media literacy evangelist, college professor, and unapologetic Diet Coke enthusiast. Author of Master the Media, she's been preaching critical thinking since 1997, often with a box of books in her trunk like an indie band on tour. She's on the faculty at Webster University in St. Louis, co-hosts the What the Media podcast with KMOX, and has trained audiences on 4 continents. Her current obsession is why we share false information and how to stop before we hit post. Julie, I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, I find it really fun that we started off because you're the speaker against restricting social media.
But I would love to restrict it. I would love to. It's just going to be very, very difficult. There's a lot of hurdles.
So I think that is one of the most interesting parts of this conversation, because I actually agree with, we're completely in alignment on this. I feel like social media is destroying culture.
And it's like locking up the barn after the horse is already gone. Mm-hmm. The horses are gone. So how do we train the society to function in this social media world as critical consumers of it? And that's the big challenge, because I don't think a lot of people really want to be critical consumers.
No. And so we had, we were talking about that right before we were recording, that you said that people are happy zombies.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very comfortable in their social media bubbles.
Yeah.
When we're online, we typically tend to congregate with people who think, feel, believe, and vote the way that we do. And so that's a very comfortable space. And when we are confronted with information that maybe we disagree with or we don't like to hear, we tend to put up blinders. And that's not necessarily healthy either. I mean, we need to be getting a really wide diet of information, and social media platforms just don't provide that.
So that's interesting, because you say when we're online, but I feel like we're just as likely to do that in person. But as you were saying that, it made me think maybe we wouldn't be as quick to put up blinders, because you might not know someone. If you're meeting them in person, you don't know exactly what their perspective is. So you have a conversation. You're forced to have a conversation a little bit longer. Am I catching on some of the benefits to in person versus online?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure that we do a whole lot of in-person communicating anymore.
Oh, don't say that.
I know. It hurts me to say it, but I think that most of our communication happens behind a screen now.
I agree, unfortunately. In social media, what's crazy is how it is changing the way our kids interact. I mean, not just social media. I know we're going to focus on that heavily, but screens, cell phones. I mean, it's been for years that people talk about kids can't have a conversation if it's not a text.
It's very difficult for them to make eye contact. At least my students at the university have trouble with conversation. They have trouble with eye contact. They have trouble with shaking hands.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, they have grown up in a different world than we did.
Oh.
And so I have to cut them a little bit of slack, but I'm also upset that while this has all been happening, no one has been helping them navigate this digital hellscape that they're in, because it's easy, right? In fact, when I do workshops at high schools, I have a lot of students come to me and say, how do we get our moms off their phones? It's not just the kids who are struggling with this. And what I wish we all understood is the role that we play in the economic structure of all of this.
Okay.
How the algorithms work to keep us online. When I do workshops for K-12 teachers, I tell them, like, why it's so hard to teach? It's that the only time that a kid is consuming messages that they did not choose themselves, or that the algorithm didn't choose for them, is when they're in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
And that's really, really hard for them.
That is interesting.
Because, the minute they wake up, the AirPods are in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In between every class. So they're very rarely confronted with any information that ruffles the feathers.
Oh, boy. That is an interesting perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's why teachers have a really especially hard time these days.
Oh, definitely. So let's back up a little bit and talk about your background and how you got into what you're doing with media literacy. And I just have to put the caveat out there that I'd love for us to unpack that the term media literacy can be scary, but it's not a bad thing.
It's critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's critical thinking is what it is. And I think the term for a lot of people means that if you are a fan of media literacy, you go around talking about how Fox is bad. And that is not absolutely not what I do at all. I talk about the business of it. These cable networks have data on what their viewers like, and it's a business, right? Mm-hmm. So MSNBC is giving their viewers exactly what they want, and Fox is giving their viewers just what they want. We're very comfortable. It's a business decision. So I think once we kind of understand that, it helps a little bit.
Yeah.
And for when people complain about Fox, I'm like, oh my gosh, they were brilliant because they were they decided to serve half the country that was ignored.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So when I really got excited about media literacy, it's kind of funny. I wanted to teach people how to watch TV.
Okay.
Like, how are television programs scheduled? What's the format of a sitcom? What was the evolution of the laugh track? And that seems like such simple days now.
Oh, I bet.
Compared to what media literacy classes are like now. Because actually my students don't watch television on television devices.
Yeah.
It's all on their smaller screens. So it has since evolved into the study of algorithms and the study of AI and all of the technology. But what started the whole workshop thing for me, and this was really interesting, when my oldest was in middle school, and this probably would have been 10, 15 years ago, got an email from the principal at the middle school saying, there have been some questions about this new app called Instagram.
Oh.
And
new app.
Yeah. And he was kind of warning the parents about it. And so I reached out to him and I said, hey, I kind of study this stuff. Would you like me to do like a little talk about Instagram at the next meeting? And he said, oh, that would be great. So they advertised it and 300 parents showed up.
Oh, wow.
And so what I realized was there's a hunger for information, just objective information about how these platforms operate. Mm-hmm. And people don't know where to get that information. And so that's kind of how it started for me. So now I've been really fortunate enough to travel around about something I'd love to talk about to lots of different countries, mainly high school students, K-12 teachers, parent groups, and I speak at conferences too. And it's so fun because I love this topic. Like, I think if we were critical consumers of all the stuff out there, I feel like the world would be a very different place.
Yeah.
And I think we'd be happier. I think we'd be healthier. And, maybe it's naive. Like, the subtitle of my book is How Teaching Media Literacy Can Save Our Plugged-In World.
Oh.
And my dad thought it was really oh, that's naive. I'm like, no, this is really what I think, that if we were critical consumers, and it's this simple, Missy. It's who's the sender of the message? What's their motive or intent? How's the message designed to get me to feel? Mm-hmm. What information is left out? And who benefits or profits from this?
Ah.
That's all. That's all. Yeah, that's all I want my students to do is ask those questions about a podcast, about a TikTok video, about something on YouTube, about an Instagram post, about a textbook, about a TV show, about a news program, about something in a magazine. Just ask those questions. So we're not saying that this message is bad or this message is good. We're just saying maybe, the average American is spending 11 hours and 40 minutes a day consuming media because we're double screeners.
Yes.
And sometimes triple screeners. That's how we get to 11 hours and 40 minutes on average. So we're not saying that that's bad. We're saying, why don't we talk about this more than we do? We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
We're spending much more time consuming media provided by, profit-based corporations that don't necessarily have our best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Than we're spending with our parents or at school or even asleep in many cases. So I just feel like we need to talk about this more.
So it's fascinating that you say that about thinking critically about everything that you're looking at. And I feel, though, like people don't necessarily want to.
No, they don't.
And how do you get through to them? Is there a process? If we were, as a takeaway, right, for our parents, if they're listening and maybe there's someone in their friend circle or in their family, what would be a way that they could get through to this person?
And this is $1 million question, right? I mean, it's something that everybody deals with frequently, and especially at holiday dinners.
Yes.
What I have heard works is when someone says something that is really off the wall. Mm-hmm. instead of saying, well, that's not right, right? You want to be a little more gentle and say, oh, well, where did you get that information?
Mm-hmm.
Like when my sons tell me something, they know my first question is, who's your source?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just because there's a blue check mark doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
And we also have to remember the Atlantic magazine says that 52% of the accounts on social media platforms are bots.
That is bonkers to me.
It's completely crazy.
That
but
is.
there's no incentive for these platforms to get rid of the bots because it increases engagement, right? And more engagement, more money.
Yeah.
So a lot of these bots originate in the former Soviet Union, and they post information just to stir things up here and keep us worked up because Meta, like when the Facebook files came out a couple years ago,
Yep.
you know, there's all that research in there that said, if you are angry, you stay online longer.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's in their best interest, the platform's best interest, to keep us angry because then we stay online longer, and the longer we stay online, the more money they make.
That is insane. I know that it's manipulative, but it just feels so icky. I mean,
It does.
It makes me feel so frustrated.
And you know, on Facebook, it used to be that your news feed would be everybody you're connected with and what they posted in chronological order.
Yeah.
Well, a couple years ago, they switched to what they call meaningful social interactions,
Oh.
which is code for clickbait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now if someone posts something and it generates a lot of action, especially like the angry face, you know, the angry orange face, if it generates a lot of comments, then that post might show up on other people's news feeds that aren't even connected to you.
It becomes the suggested, right? Suggested for you.
Right,
Interesting.
right. So we just have to be aware of how these manipulations work and how when we're on these platforms, you know, if we're using one of these apps or websites for free, we're not the customer.
That's exactly right.
We are the product being sold. And our attention now, we're in an attention economy. So
Yes.
our attention now is what oil was in the 70s. Like that is what everybody's going for. And it's getting harder and harder to fight.
So, do you have any tips for that in particular? I'm going to take a quick pause on that just because it's so interesting. Is there any suggestions you have for within your feed, maybe on the different platforms, of how people can take control of that?
You know, ideally, I would say, oh, follow people who vote differently than you, but I don't even do that, so I can't. It wouldn't be fair. It'd be hypocritical for me to suggest that. I think just be aware of why, when you're on a platform, try to stay on the following instead of the for you or the suggested,
Okay.
because that's 100% algorithm driven.
Yeah.
And the following are people that you have already chosen to follow.
Yeah.
So like on X, I have a special list. You can do lists on X, and I have a list of news outlets that I trust. Now, I'd like to say that I trust every single news outlet on that list. I don't, but I know I take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a workshop in June in Kentucky, and the question came up, do you trust the news? And I said, absolutely not. I think only like 32% of Americans trust the national news media now.
Yeah.
And this particular teacher said, well, why? And I said, well, the debate.
Oh, yeah. That alone.
Well, we were told for months,
Mm-hmm.
he's a super ager. And then we see the debate and we know that we were gaslighted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think that opened a lot of people's eyes about, oh, a lot of this is just really about making money. And especially, you know, I'm from St. Louis. I feel like a lot of times the people in the middle of the country are completely ignored.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard that said, quite frankly, by news and elites. That, you know, it's just like people not to pay attention to.
Well, we're flyover country.
You're flyover. I wasn't going to say it because
Yeah.
I hate that term.
No,
but
I know.
it's
I know. But whenever I meet someone from the East or West Coast, I'm always like, we have indoor plumbing.
Believe it or not.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's seeing how this whole media ecosystem has evolved. Like it's a feature and a bug as an instructor, because if I was a math teacher, I would never have to update my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, 2 + 2 is always 4. But I have to update my stuff all the time because things are changing so quickly. And I can't even keep up with all the changes that AI has brought into the media.
Oh my goodness. AI is the next beast for sure. So let's take a tour over to that side, actually.
Okay.
So you talk about media literacy, or you were saying before digital literacy. First of all, can you clarify why the term would change?
Well, I think media literacy is, the term I think has just, I don't know, I feel like it needs a rebranding.
Okay.
And especially when I'm talking to students and I say the word media, they just automatically say social media because
so
that's
interesting.
that's the only time they hear that word.
That is crazy.
Right. And so if we call it digital literacy or digital critical thinking, that I think is a better description of what it is. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I've started calling it digital literacy now, even though my book is about media literacy. So go figure.
Well, I think it'll be interesting because I've heard both. I've heard I think I've heard digital literacy referred to more as far as being like a digital citizen and being able to that sort of thing.
Digital citizenship was a great idea like 15 years ago.
Yeah, now
I know it was a simpler time.
It was
when we were like, be nice online. Like, oh, that ship sailed. That ship sailed years ago. Yeah.
Well, you talk about you were saying before the idea that just be nice online as opposed and now you're saying like don't be careful with what you post online. That was part of what you were trying to be careful
that's
of.
the way it started. And now I think that at least for my students, they're more consumers than producers.
Yeah.
But
probably most people are.
Yeah, but I think that if you are a media producer, you understand editing, colors, music, you know all of the decisions that go into making a media product. And so I think that if you're a producer, it actually makes you a better consumer because you recognize the choices that the producer has made. But it gets harder and harder because I think that we consume so much without even thinking about it.
Yes.
It's just automatic.
I agree with that. It's I don't know, osmosis, I guess, or something. Just it's the brain rot, quite frankly, that we hear about all the time.
And I worry about soul rot.
Oh, explain that.
My youngest, after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, texted me and said, "Mom, every time I open my phone, I'm seeing that video."
Oh.
And then it was the girl in North Carolina that was stabbed on the train.
Yeah, that was awful.
And those images showed up everywhere. And, it goes back to the old argument about violence on television and violent video games. Are we desensitized? And I think, especially now in this world where it's really hard to tell what's real and what's not, I think maybe there's a part of our brains that are like, oh, that's not even real. Or another part of our brain that's like, well, another murder. I think that it harms us at our core when we are consuming all of these images that, we really shouldn't have to see.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I 100% agree with you. I think that there is massive desensitization happening. And there are studies from years ago. I remember learning I learned them in high school or early college, that they were talking about how the difference that when children or students were shown different types of videos based on their backgrounds.
Oh, it's the social learning theory. Albert Bandura, he did the Bobo doll test. Like every freshman psychology class talks about that. Yeah, it's what videos they were shown affected how they acted.
It really does. And yet there are scientists that I cannot think of the gentleman's name, but there's a scientist who's known for, or maybe he's a psychologist, I think he is, who's known for saying that video games do not have a negative impact, and violent video games are not going to cause. There's no correlation between violent video games and violence, and maybe that's the concept that supposedly, and that we're not being desensitized. But I think there's no question that we're being desensitized.
I think just from the sheer volume of information that we consume, but I have to bring up a point of view that might be controversial.
Okay,
I have 3 sons.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather that they play video games than watch a television program. And here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. When they're watching a TV program, it's a linear story that someone else has created.
Okay.
They are just along for the ride.
All right.
When they're playing video games together, they are in a world that sometimes they have created themselves.
Okay.
They are making decisions. They are prioritizing, they are solving problems, they are solving puzzles. You can see real leadership. Like I remember the first time my youngest was ordering my oldest what to do in a game, and I thought that was so interesting. And they're collaborating and working together.
Okay.
And I would rather that they be in something interactive than passive, like simple TV viewing.
So that is controversial, and I'll tell you,
I know.
It goes completely against the perspective that we've had, or that we're exploring, I should say, that we're trying to unpack as far as the dangers of video games. And it's actually it's directly related to the things that you're talking about, because typically the gamings that what you just described can be good, but the downside to it is the potential addictiveness of the video games.
It's by design.
It is.
It's by design. And so are our phones.
Yes. Well, and social media, 100%.
Sure.
So let's go back to, I realized I totally detoured off and
it happens.
Away from AI.
It happens.
So how are you incorporating AI training or literacy, if you will, or whatever into what you're doing now?
Not very well.
Oh, okay.
Because it's changing every day.
Yeah, that's true.
I used to, I have a list of about 300 different AI tools categorized by what they do that I used to share with teachers. And I don't even add to it anymore because it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. What worries me about AI, like do my students use it? Of course. Is it very obvious? Of course it is. And AI detectors don't work.
No.
As an educator, they don't work. So what we're faced with now as educators is trying to figure out how to completely update our assignments and assessments in this new reality.
Yeah.
Because the assignments and assessments we used to give 2 years ago don't work anymore.
No. So what do you do? What do you do as teachers? And are teachers going to become irrelevant?
No. No, I don't think so. Because there's a human element that AI can't do yet.
I agree with that.
AI isn't going to hug a girl out in the hallway after she finds out all her friends have a text chat that she's not in.
Oh.
Or AI is not going to open some kindergartner's milk in the cafeteria that they can't open. Like there's always going to be a human element that I think is completely necessary. But I think that we could potentially be at the start of maybe changing our definition of what it means to be educated.
Interesting.
What it means to learn. But what worries me most about AI, and it's not that my students have used it or whatever, it's more that there's research now that says over half teenagers are talking to a chatbot for companionship and mental health advice and therapy.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to help them. And kids are self-diagnosing themselves on TikTok. I mean, that's been going on forever too. But this is different.
Yeah.
It has a creepy element to it.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like maybe the back way to kind of help the kids figure out how they're being used in this process is to describe to them how these tools make money, why they make money, how they're using everything you type to train, and how the chatbots are programmed specifically to never push back. Like you will never be in a debate with one. They will just completely agree with whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's got to be appealing if you're a teenager.
It definitely is.
Yeah. But there's red flags that we need to look out for. And I do talk about this with my students in the workshops too. Like if there's someone who is maybe referring to their chatbot by name or with a pronoun, like kind of humanizing it.
Yeah.
Or if they're making decisions based on what the chatbot has said, or if they're kind of withdrawing from real interaction and spending so much time in that AI cyber world, then I think that those are red flags, and we need to try to get that person some help, because there's and then you've read about the suicides.
Yes.
And in one, and I can't remember if it was the young man in California or the young man in Florida, ChatGPT offered to write the suicide note.
Yeah, that is awful.
But we have to remember that the chatbot is designed specifically to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
So even like if we enter something, it's going to say, would you like a chart of that? Or would you like me to do X more? Like, because that's what they're programmed to do. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if we can help people understand the role they play in all of this, and how these companies are making billions of dollars, and all we're getting out of it is anxiety and and low self-esteem and depression. And I feel like maybe that's a step to help people understand that we're just being used.
I would hope so. I got to be honest, I'm slightly disheartened by some of the responses I've gotten from people. And I'm a very optimistic person.
Yeah.
But when talking about the manipulation that happens, some people are rightfully and thankfully frustrated, annoyed, angered by it. But then a number of people are just kind of, well, it's going to happen anyway. Like, whatever, I can't control it. And I don't know how to break out of that. I don't know how we get people, the ship turning around.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I think that sadly, I fall into that second crowd. Like, I know that, like I mentioned, it's like trying to get toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah.
There's so many reasons why banning these probably wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to educate. I like to say that we can't outrun the media, we can't outlaw the media, but we can outsmart it, and that's what I try to do is help people outsmart it. But not everybody wants to, and I understand that's a part of the battle.
Yeah, 100%. So that brings up exactly what we're going to talk about later, actually, which is, do we want to ban or restrict social media for minors? So I want to give you a chance to kind of unpack your perspective, because surprisingly, like what was, I think it's kind of hilarious when we reached out to you first. You clearly figured out we thought you were going to be more
Social media is fine.
Yes.
Yeah, but who can say that?
I got to be honest.
I mean, Mark Zuckerberg would sit here and say it, but
yes,
who else could? Right?
Yeah.
And so my perspective is, yeah, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great? And wouldn't it be great if winter never existed?
Yes.
Like, wouldn't it be great if Interstate 95 was great? Like, no, these things are part of life, and we have to learn to live with them, sadly. I mean, I know that sounds very defeatist. So my perspective is education, 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 education. Let's unpack these platforms. Let's talk about how they make money and why they were started. Let's talk about what it means to actually be an influencer. What does that mean? Let's talk about how do you feel after you spend an hour on Instagram? How do you feel after you spend an hour on TikTok? How do you know what's real and what's not? How can you tell if something is AI generated? Do you have a Google alert set up for your name? Do you know how to verify photos to see if they're real? Do you know how to look up phone numbers? Do you know to not respond to a smishing attack on your phone? Like, do you understand the terms of service that you've agreed to that God. No one reads?
No one reads.
No one reads. There's what it is. Like, I want to help them kind of see behind the curtain a little bit, because these things aren't going away. I mean, even if they're banned, like in Australia, for example, right? I think the law goes into effect this week. Mm-hmm. So the kids can change their VPN. The kids can change their time zone. The kids can lie about their age. Like, there's no reliable age verification system on these platforms. And it's not in the platform's best interest to lose the kids.
Well, no, of course not. And I have another concern personally, and I'm curious if you have a perspective on it. So if we were to introduce age verification, which at first blush sounds like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea, and it's going to protect kids. But that is an invasion of so much privacy, and now you're asking these companies to do in-depth or some sort of way of tracking your ID. Now we're looking at digital IDs. And I mean, if we don't see that where that slippery slope leads us, then,
right.
That's really scary.
And every email address can have up to 6 different Instagram accounts.
I did not know that.
That's how I set one up for my dog.
Oh.
So you could easily, say, oh, yes, I'm 16.
Yeah.
Or 17, but on all your other accounts, lie about your age. So I think it was either March or April or May of this year, Instagram came out with what they call teen accounts.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they got a lot of publicity because what they had set up is that your account was going to be labeled as a teen account.
Okay.
You were not going to receive any notifications between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Your parents were going to have access to your account to see who you've been talking to. And everyone was like, oh, good job, Instagram. And I'm like, lip service.
Yeah.
It's just lip service, because anybody who thinks that Instagram was being this great citizen doesn't realize how easy it is to lie about your age, how easy it is to change the time zone on your phone so you can still get notifications during the night, and how easy it is to have multiple accounts. So anytime that, like ChatGPT just introduced parental controls, like it's lip service to keep the government off their back.
I agree. So what should parents be doing? Because I got to be honest, what you just described for Instagram teen accounts, frankly, all of the concerns before they had Instagram teen accounts, I was applying to my children. Like, okay, so you could open an account that I don't have access to, that
Exactly.
you only access on a different device that I don't have access to.
And most kids have 3 or 4 different accounts anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you're a parent, and like I said, I'm very fortunate my kids are older and avoided a lot of this. Talk to them. And usually if they have an app on their phone, get the same app on your phone and really understand how it works. There were times, I've had parents say really interesting things to me. Like one time a woman came up and she said, "How do I get my daughter from texting at dinner?" And I don't have much of a filter. And without even thinking, I said, "Who's in charge at your house?"
That was my question.
Who's in charge? The best advice I ever got is if your kids are never mad at you, you're doing it wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I've also had a mom come up and say, "Oh, my daughter was bullied." Now, and I hate that word. Cyberbullying is repeated electronic harassment with intent to harm.
Mm-hmm.
We get our feelings hurt online.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean necessarily we were bullied. Right?
No.
So a woman came up and said, "Oh, my daughter's been bullied. She didn't get invited to this party." And I was like, okay, that's just 7th grade drama.
Yeah.
That's not cyberbullying. And so because we throw that term around so much, I feel like real instances of that don't get the attention that they probably need to get.
I completely agree.
Yeah. So talk to them. One thing I did suggest to a mom once, she said, I want to kind of help my daughter. Like, this was when Instagram was a thing. And I said, "Is there some activity that you and your daughter really like to do together?" And she said, "Yeah, we love to decorate cupcakes." I said, "Okay, then the 2 of you build an account about your cupcakes that you do together, follow other cupcake people, and so that you are doing this together as a partnership." And the way I described it to the mom is like you're kind of holding her hand as you walk into the ocean gradually, so that she can see how you handle it, and then when time comes for her to be on her own in the Wild West, then maybe she'll have a little more confidence and a little more experience.
And what kind of age limit are you thinking? Just out of curiosity.
That's a tough question.
Okay. Well,
everybody matures at a different age.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like I always think it's weird that the movie ratings, like the night before you turn 17, you can't handle this movie, but the day after, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It doesn't seem like it's all that effective. But I think, again, talk, figure out exactly what works for you and your family. And there are some groups now, I think there's one group called Wait Till 8th, where parents are kind of banded together. If I had 7th or 8th graders now, I would try to get together with the other parents and say, okay, let's pinky promise that we're not going to do this for a couple of years or whatever. Because I think that it has to be a group, because so much social activity is planned on those devices that really, if your child doesn't have one, they're going to be excluded. And that's the kiss of death when you're in middle school, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think talking to other parents would really be beneficial too.
That is one thing I want to call out. On our website, we've got under our engage section, we always try to highlight organizations that are doing something similar to whatever we're focusing on. And that is one of the organizations we selected as well. Because you're spot on that you can't do this alone. You can't just be out there on your own doing this.
And you can't, the forbidden fruit, is so appealing, especially when you're a teenager. So I think that's an approach that I'm not sure is really all that effective, because they'll figure out a way.
It feels like it for sure, especially, and I would say, like, my big caution to parents at this point is, frankly, don't even give them a phone if you don't have to.
If you don't have to.
Because as soon as you do, you have to put monitoring on it. You have to be aware of what is happening. And it's a lot of work.
It is a part-time job.
It is. It really
It's a part-time job, and it's the equivalent of giving a kid a Ferrari without driver's ed.
Yeah, it honestly, because they will find out how to get around any control you have.
Absolutely.
They absolutely will. And I don't mean this I really don't mean this as a negative or a knock on kids. I mean, if
They're
anything,
savvy.
they're smart. They
Yeah.
figure it out.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate, but we as parents, I think, I know one of the things I struggled with was applying too much of my experience, even though I have a ton of background in technology, that I still had more time without technology,
Yeah.
and forgetting that my kids didn't have that perspective. So, all right. So I have another question for you.
Okay.
As you're working through these and workshops and talking to people, have you seen a trend at all in young people, especially? Are kids still interested in being online, or are there kids maybe who are interested in not being online?
Actually, I just printed up an article for my class for this week. There's a group at Harvard starting an abstinence
Oh, wow.
program
I love it.
where they are promising to stay off social media together.
That's awesome.
And there's also, I got some pretty interesting pushback in one of my classes this semester where I wanted them to use a large language model for a particular exercise.
Okay.
And I had several students say they were morally opposed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That is really impressive.
And I thought that was really interesting. Now, they're animation majors and film majors, so I understand
Yeah.
where, I would never ask them to use generative AI.
Yeah.
But there was also an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago where the bosses are saying, use AI or you're fired.
Wow.
Because it can help productivity so much.
Oh, it all comes back to money.
It always comes back to money. Yeah.
Always back to money.
So it's interesting we're living, I think, in a really interesting time.
You said it before really well, though, that it's changing so fast. I feel like if you go on vacation for a couple days or a week, you're going to come back and things have
The world's
changed.
different.
It's completely different.
Yeah,
And you're
exactly.
like, what is happening?
But we also have to remember, I grew up in like a 24-hour news cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it's a 30-second news cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these news organizations have 24 hours of content that they have to fill up. And so it's really easy to get people revved up thinking, you know what I mean? Like just making mountains out of molehills just because they have the time that they have to fill up. So there is that too. Like, yes, it can feel like everything has changed in those 2 days you were gone, but also remember that that's the nature of the beast in many cases is to get us riled up.
So do you advise any sort of like abstinence, I guess, or abstinence from technology?
I think, like, especially around the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice. I usually tell my kids when they come over, I'm like, is that phone a tool or a hobby? Because I think for many of us, it's a hobby.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a tool. And so I try to encourage that. If you can make it happen, the whole distraction thing, like, let's play cards, let's play a board game, let's do something that's more engaging than just all of us staring at a phone. I think it was the author Sherry Turkle who wrote a book called Alone Together.
Yeah, yeah.
Where we're all in a room together, but we're alone. And that's what that's what my classroom feels like before class starts.
I bet.
It's just complete silence. And kind of makes me sad. There's interesting people sitting right next to them and they don't know it.
Could be their future spouse sitting.
You
right
never
next to
know.
them, and
You
they
never
just won't
know.
talk to 'em.
I think one of the interesting conversations I've had in class before is I've asked them, what's worse, believing everything or believing nothing?
Oh, wow.
And my students believe nothing.
So they think that's worse, or are they currently feeling that they believe
They
nothing?
currently believe nothing.
Oh, my goodness.
But I know some people who believe everything, right?
That's true.
And we need to be somewhere in the middle. We need to be skeptical without sliding over into cynicism. I dance around that line a lot, but I think being healthy skepticism is really, really a good thing to have these days.
Well, it's that old saying. You said it before. Take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And remember, and I don't know if Mark Twain said this, but he's from Missouri, so I'm going to quote him. A lie will make it around the world before the truth gets its pants on.
Yep. That's so true.
Yeah. So we have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So how do you stay optimistic despite all of the challenges? Because I will say, I feel like since we started talking, you really exude optimism, which is frankly kind of surprising considering what you're talking about. And it feels like we're up against a machine. So how do you stay so optimistic?
I think it's because there are a lot of people who do what I do. There are a lot of organizations that support this critical thinking, the National Association of Media Literacy Education, Media Literacy Now. There's a lot of states that are starting to legislate critical thinking and media literacy in classrooms, especially when it comes to AI use. So I think that we've reached a tipping point, really.
Okay.
Where people are like, yeah, you know what, this isn't good. It's not going anywhere. So what do we do?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm naive, but I feel like there's still a lot to be excited about.
Well, and I will say that for me, it is getting out as well and talking to other people like you and realizing getting out of your echo chamber online and seeing, get out of that algorithm, the feed, and realize that there's so many people that you just don't get to talk to every day. But boy, they have the same perspective. They're fighting the same fight. You're not in it alone.
No. And, there's actually a term for that happens in classrooms a lot. It's called the spiral of silence.
Oh, okay.
Where people assume that they are in a minority, and so they don't say anything. But in reality,
they're the majority.
A lot of people feel the same way they do.
Interesting.
And they're also afraid to say anything.
Oh, wow. That is great. So you just need that one person.
You just need one person to say, hey, maybe we should talk about this more. And I think it encourages other people to do the same.
Well, this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I cannot wait for our debate. So real quick before we wrap it up, is there any final takeaway that you'd like to say or anything that we maybe didn't get to?
No, I would just really love to encourage people, no matter what message they are consuming, ask themselves in your head, who's the sender? What's the motive? How's it designed to get my attention? What information is left out, and who benefits or profits from this?
I'm going to have to write those down. I don't have any paper here, but I'm going to have to get that because I love it.
If I had a tattoo, it would be on my forehead.
Well, maybe not that. Maybe on your hand.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that those, it gives you a little more power over all the information you consume.
Yeah. Don't let yourself be controlled.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So where can people find you?
My website is heyjuliesmith.com.
Love that.
And my email is heyjuliesmith@gmail. And I'm very, very willing to share any of my resources. And I do have a book on Amazon. It's called Master the Media, How Teaching Media Literacy Can Save Our Plugged-In World. There is no chapter about social media in that book because I knew that if I did write a chapter about social media, the minute it got printed, it would be outdated.
Oh, wow.
So it's more about television, the news industry, magazines, advertising, and all the other media that people don't realize are beyond social media.
I think you could do a whole book just on social media.
I know, but it'd be outdated the minute you get printed. Yeah. So I'm just I feel so fortunate to be able to talk about something that I love so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing it too because we definitely need it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for the M4L Academy's 101 interview with Julie Smith. Stay tuned. We have a even better debate coming up, mainly because it's going to get pretty interesting to see these perspectives on whether or not we should be restricting social media for minors. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.